To dive deeper into the significance of this moment and the impact on the Catholic community, we're joined right now by Professor Matthew Wilson, the Cairo Endowed Director of the Center for Faith and Learning at SMU. Professor Wilson, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's talk about, just the significance of this day and the response here in North Texas to the selection of the new Pope, Leo XIV.
Well, I think it's an incredibly exciting day for American Catholics. It's a real signal moment in the history of the American Church. American Catholics had always felt like they didn't have a realistic prospect of electing a pope. The conventional wisdom always was there wasn't a desire to consolidate that political power that America has and economic power with power in the church as well. But it turned out that was wrong. That in fact, the church was willing to move forward an American, albeit an American who has spent most of his ministerial life in Latin America. So he really is a global figure, but certainly the American church and particularly people in Chicago are really proud and happy today.
Professor Wilson, let's talk a little bit about the conclave process to get to Pope Leo XIV, right? Often the conclave is viewed as a bit of a referendum, right, on the previous pope and what their legacy is. What does this signal to you about the direction of the global Catholic Church moving forward?
I think the cardinals who were making this selection really wanted to emphasize unity in the church. They wanted to bring forward a figure who could speak to the very diverse constituencies that comprise a global ecclesiastical community of almost 1.5 billion people. And in a sense, Pope Leo XIV has something to offer to progressives. He has something to offer to conservatives. I don't think he thinks, and I don't think the church thinks in terms of those political labels. Also, he is someone who comes from the developed, wealthy world in the sense of the United States, but who has spent so much of his life living in the developing world, in Latin America. So he brings something to very diverse constituencies in the church and gives a wide range of people reason to be happy and hopeful today.
Of course, Professor Wilson, we've been on Pope Watch, it feels like, for days, even leading up to the funeral, of course, of Pope Francis. But as we look at Pope Leo XIV, how quickly he was selected, and he was on nobody's radar. How surprised were you by this?
Well, I thought the conclave might go a little bit longer simply because so many of the cardinals are relatively new and came from far-flung parts of the world and didn't necessarily know each other. But I think the fact that he was chosen relatively quickly speaks to the fact that he was someone that these diverse constituencies could get behind. That is, he didn't alienate the more progressive group in the church. He didn't alienate the more conservative group in the church. He wasn't clearly seen as a figure of the developing world or a figure of the developed world. He is quite fluent in Italian, as he showed today, but he is not himself an Italian. So he was a compromise in a lot of different ways, and I think that made him broadly acceptable to different factions within the conclave, and that's why he was able to emerge fairly quickly.
Professor Wilson, we're going to wrap up here in just a second, but for people who may not be Catholic, in 15 seconds or less, can you tell me what the significance is and why this should matter to us all?
This is the leader of the largest religious organization in the history of the world and on the planet today. He is seen by Catholics as the vicar of Christ, the heir to St. Peter. And so his selection will undoubtedly shape in very profound ways the face of global Christianity, obviously within the Catholic Church, but also more broadly for the Christian community. So this appointment matters.
Professor Wilson from SMU, thank you so much for your context and insight today.
Thanks for having me.
We've been covering the papal conclave since it began. You can watch our full coverage right now on WFAA+. You'll hear the Pope's full speech and the crowd's reactions. Download WFAA+ for free on your TV.